come as a little bit of a surprise since we're like at a growth oriented. But last year was hard for us, even though we did grow because of the supply chain. We're commercial construction, and so we had materials that were backlogged that just happened all overnight because of the COVID. We had labor shortages that we had to deal with. It was actually pretty challenging. With that said, there was an enormous just overall demand, and so that kind of like pushed this bottleneck. I call it myself a professional bottleneck unclogger for a little bit there, but it just was so immense that it just kind of eventually pushed through. I think we're kind of through that now.
I would echo what John said. It was hard, and we had tremendous growth. We could have grown probably 25% more than that if we could have had materials to sell. Right? We had tons of supply chain issues. Now we sell all the stuff that goes up and down a cell phone tower, right, except for the tower itself, and everything's got to be replaced for 5G. And people can't get rid of these, and so COVID or not, we're wide open busy, and we could be growing faster if we could get materials. A lot of this stuff comes from China.
We are in. A year ago when we sat down, supply chain and people talent were two of the big concerns that people had.
Yeah.
And a year later, we're still hearing the same things, particularly where you're relying on China and on Eastern Europe for supplies. And then from a people standpoint, it's across the board. It's not a particular industry. Everybody you talk to is having trouble finding qualified people to work. The demand's there. It's having the capacity to be able to service it.
At the square footage we have and how do we use it better, I think that's what everybody's looking at,
yeah.
right? The office we built 5 years ago, the insides of it don't necessarily work as well as we'd like it to for kind of the new reality of workforce, right? We have sufficient space even to grow tremendously, but it's a new dynamic of how people interact inside of there, right? Like not everybody's at the water cooler every single day, but we need to give a reason for people to be in to come to the water cooler to talk once in a while, right? I think that.
Our customers have not been able to get new equipment. And so for them, we're in this sort of unique situation where early on, our brand, Doosan, we were the only manufacturer with shorter lead times than a lot of our competitors. So we sort of rode that wave, and now we're on the tail end of that. So for us as a service business, if you can't buy something new, you've got to spend a lot of money to keep your old equipment up and running. So when we think about, the potential for we don't know, we have a lot of uncertainty. So it's like, you better be buying now and planning ahead. And so we have an enormous backlog just because, folks are thinking it's not going to get any better. So, trying to do all that they can to, now that there is some loosening up of the supply chain and they can get some equipment, you better buy it now while you can.
They're all sort of small, rapidly growing middle market companies, right? And so probably not as disciplined as big Fortune 500 companies, right? I think what we're getting ready to go through is going to cause all of us to sharpen our pencils a little bit and be a little less loosey-goosey.
Yep.
Because rapid growth can cover a lot of sins, right? Sure. We're going to start looking a little more inwardly about how we're spending money, how we're allocating capital versus just running and gunning, blowing and going. And I think that'll, we have a lot of young people on our team. I think that'll help train and educate them, for all of us, but it'll be a different environment. I've lived through several recessions, so a few, but it's going to be interesting.
I think COVID exposed, to your point, people could live where they wanted to live, and I think we were one of the beneficiaries of that, probably longer term. People have left kind of the congested Northeast, the congested West Coast. You see some of the southeastern or southwestern United States benefiting from that as well, but the entire Southeast, we're in these states that are expanding, and as a result of that, others in other parts of the country that are less geographically attractive are shrinking as a result.
Yeah, you put together a strong business climate from the sort of relatively low tax environment we've got in the state, and plenty of access to financing and liquidity for whatever you need to do, and great quality of life. Or if you're in Raleigh, 3 hours you can be at the beach, 3 hours you can be in the mountains. There aren't many places in the United States you can say that. And so it's a good place to be.
Well, we're all biased because we all live here. I think it's a business-friendly economy. There's a lot of banks here. There's financing. Capital markets are plentiful with Charlotte and and others. The geography's great. right? You got the mountains, you got the coast, you still have kind of 4 seasons.
In 1 week sometimes.
Yeah.
That's too.
It's still a really nice place. I mean, all of us have probably traveled, it's a really good place to live. Great colleges and universities, right? A lot of people are coming for that.
And as much as we've grown, there's still room for growth.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot with the opportunity zone, the low tax rate comparatively to other fast-growing states. It's still really attractive and a really good investment.